after we got married.
We were the happiest parents. I mean, it was the best news. Pregnancy was completely normal. I was working up to the day before I went into the hospital.
And obviously a very exciting time in our lives together.
And it was pretty simple.
There comes our little Mia, January 29th.
My first little baby. I mean,
It's a miracle.
my mom told the nurse that her lip was a little blue. So that's when she called in for the cardiologist, and that's when they did the ultrasound. But at that point, they could not find anything in the ultrasound, and everything else came out okay, except for her pulse in the bottom. When they're babies, they check for their pulse at the bottom of their feet, and it wasn't as strong as he would have liked. So that's why he said, at that point, he said, come back in 2 weeks to my office.
I really wasn't concerned because they actually said it's a murmur.
I was more nervous about being, first-time mom and feeding the baby and taking care of the baby, and I wanted to stay at the hospital longer because the nurses take care of you. But at that point I had no worries that her life was actually in danger. So it was 2 weeks later, we went to the cardiologist like he said to come in. We went in exactly 2 weeks, and they're doing the ultrasound, and then he kind of paused as he was looking at the pictures. And it was like one of those pauses where you're like, okay, you don't really expect, what type of information's coming your way, but you just get that uncomfortableness. And so then that's when he told us that she has to go to the hospital, and I'm pretty much freaking out.
She was panicking.
Completely upset because you have a doctor telling you some information that you don't really understand, and that your daughter has to go to the hospital, that her left ventricle is getting bigger. It was already enlarged. The cardiologist is telling us that we have to go to the hospital right now.
There's a corrotation of the aorta, where the narrowing of the aorta, the part of the aorta is so narrow, the lower part of her extremities weren't being perfused properly. Up to that point, I still didn't understand the severity of it. I understand she had to have surgery. I knew that the heart could be repaired. Her body was being deprived of oxygenated blood in the lower part of the body, which was actually backing up into the heart, which was suffocating the left ventricle. Without surgery, she would have eventually died, especially her being so tiny.
There was no time going on the internet. It was just a couple of phone calls, and then what's the best option, and that was it. Because it was literally less than 24 hours by the time she was in surgery.
We don't understand the severity of it until it all sinks in, and that's what happened to me the day of the surgery. The next morning, there was no waiting for the surgery. But I came pretty unglued after they took her. They took her for surgery that morning.
Yeah, that's when it was hard, when you're with her, and then they're preparing for the surgery, and then the nurse comes in and just, all right, taking her, and you couldn't go in.
Yeah, I remember them taking the baby. That's when I got very upset. I get very emotional thinking about it all the time.
She just put her on her shoulder, and then you just see her face, and then they go through the doors, and then you just wait.